have the pleasure of meeting Jeremy Galbraith, who is CEO of Burson Marsteller Europe, Middle East and Africa, and also Global Chief Strategy Officer and a member of Burson Marsteller's Global Leadership Team. Hello, Jeremy. How are you?
Good, thank you.
It's very good to see you in Madrid. Burson Marsteller is present in more than 100 countries, both with offices and affiliates. How does the company manage a public relations strategy that should be applied in countries with different cultures and realities?
Well, I think you need two things. One is you need a global strategy which has central leadership but input from the local teams. You then need to have a very strong center which ensures that that strategy is implemented around the world. But you then really need that local knowledge, that local implementation to really make sure that it works on the day locally.
Let's talk about Asia. You have offices in China, Hong Kong, India, Indonesia, Japan, Singapore and South Korea. And in addition, you also have affiliated companies in Bangladesh, Malaysia, Nepal, Pakistan, Philippines, Taiwan and Thailand. Generally speaking, what differences do you find between communication strategies that should be followed in these countries? For example, the ones followed in the European countries. What differences in Asia and in European countries in communication management and strategies?
Well, I think you need to realize that this is a vast region. China, India, Singapore, Australia, it's vast. And so what you really have to understand is that whilst the power of the idea, that great idea that you use for a communication strategy, probably works in most countries, you really need to adapt it locally. How will that power of that idea be used locally? And what are the local examples that would make it relevant? Also recognizing that, look, as I said, Asia is huge. Recognizing the role of government in communications is different in many of those countries.
In which sense, recognizing how does governments operate differently in Asia and in Europe?
Well, clearly, media has a different role in different countries in Asia. In some countries it's free, in some countries it's less free. Look at social media. In some countries, social media is totally free. In some countries, again, less free.
And when it comes to companies and institutions, what are their needs? What do they require specifically, companies and Burson Marsteller's clients in that part of the world?
Well, again, you need to have the global strategy, the global messages, but really relevant locally. And that what our teams do is to really understand what works locally. How do you translate that global message, and how do you make it relevant for different stakeholders, whether it be government, whether it be doctors, whether it be consumers in each of those markets?
Your clients are mostly communication managers and PR executives. Generally speaking, what is the profile of Asian professional PR leaders and communication managers?
Well, it's exactly the same as you'd expect in Europe. People come from media, maybe they've done communications at university, maybe they've come from politics. I think the real difference is, just as in Central Europe, you would find that the market was less developed, people have probably got 10 years experience, you tend to find the same thing in many Asian countries. So whereas in Spain or the UK or France or Germany, you've probably got professionals who've got 20 to 30 years experience if they are the most senior people in our industry. In Asia, that is less likely to be the case. When Burson Marsteller first went into Asia, we started with expats leading those businesses, typically from the US or from the UK. That's changed significantly. You now have leadership of most of our operations coming from the country in which we're operating in. But still, you don't find that many professionals with more than 10 to 15 years experience.
Communication is a mix of a lot of disciplines and areas, some of them internal communications, corporate social responsibility, media relations, social media. In which of those areas would you say that peer professionals and communication managers in Asia are stronger or weaker than those of Europe?
Well, again, I think it's clear that most markets are less developed than you would find in the US or the UK or many European markets. That's only natural. But you know what? Things are taking on fast. it's very clear everywhere in the world that internal communication and change management is critical. Employees are ambassadors for companies, and that's no different in Asia. In Europe and the US, we're beginning to talk about corporate purpose. Probably in Asia, in most countries, we're still talking about CSR, which tends to be more about local philanthropy than anything else.
Let's talk about communication versus marketing, or with marketing. You know, it's a very usual debate, the relationship between communication area and marketing areas in some companies. How is this working in Asia? Are they well coordinated or not?
Well, there's always been that wall between communications and marketing. And most companies have had that wall until, I guess, the last 5 to 10 years. As the power of the internet has changed communications, it's become increasingly important for companies to really have an integrated communications approach. You can't just do PR. You can't just do social media. You can't just do advertising. And it's no different in Asia. The power of the internet is everywhere. And so just as within communications agencies, just as within companies, the wall between marketing and communications is breaking down. The same is happening in Asia.
So that's why global trends are global, aren't they? At Burson Marsteller, you work with evidence-based communications methodology. Can you define it? What data does it use? What are the advantages of this methodology?
So the biggest challenge for our industry has always been that the finance director wants to know, and the CEO wants to know, by investing this in communications, what does it mean for our business? And the reality is that, for many, many years, our profession has been seen as one which has sort of had a marginal impact on the business, or one that couldn't be measured. And that when we've gone in as an agency to talk to clients about a strategy, we've gone in with what in English we would describe as a gut feeling. We think this will work because we tried it in the past. And what we at Burson Marsteller now do, consistently with clients around the world, is to say, okay, so this is the situation that the client has given us. Let's measure what stakeholders think now about a particular issue. What is their perception? What is their favorability about an issue? And let's measure it at the end of the campaign and see how have we changed their perceptions. Let's look at what are the messages that will work with politicians or with consumers or women between the age of 18 and 24. Let's measure the messages that work. And then as the campaign progresses, let's see whether those messages are working. And we describe this as evidence-based communications because we're using evidence to inform our strategy, to inform our messages, but also to make sure that we, at the end of the day, can see how we have, through our campaigns, changed the perceptions and maybe the buying behaviors of our target audiences.
Let's talk about case studies. You've issued a number of them related to your operations in Asia. Do you feel especially proud of any of them?
Well, I think one very good example would be the work that we did for Adidas, where they came with some very significant research to us talking about women and their aspirations in the world of sport. And one of the things that came out very clearly was that Chinese women enjoy sport, but they also enjoy family, they enjoy friends, they enjoy getting together. And so we put together a campaign with Adidas, which was really focused on fitness and community and getting together. And one of the results of our program, in very clear business results, was as a result of the campaign, 40% more sales were made of women's lines in China than had been before the campaign.
That's brilliant. Let's talking about the future. As a global strategist, which are the main trends that you perceive both in Asia and also at a global level, and how does Burson Marsteller face them?
Okay, so the biggest trend is mobile. I haven't got my mobile because it's charging. But I mean, we all use our mobile phones all the day. 18% of global internet traffic is now driven by mobile. In 3 years, imagine where that will be. By 2017, 2018, we will use our mobiles more for data than for calling people. So companies really need to think about how do they tailor all the materials they are producing to make it easy for mobile users to find out, I don't know, their restaurant, their airline, their hotel, whatever it may be. So mobile is the first trend. The second is, in our profession, we love writing. We have many former journalists. And the press release was the thing that we all did. I know, that 2-page press release, which had all those key messages. Now, I know, there's information overload. And people are really looking for something different. And, you know, that one photograph, that one image. Who remembers, I know, the Felix Red Bull space jump? I mean, it was global. That photograph of him jumping is iconic. Can you imagine putting a press release out about that?
Certainly not.
Yeah, a totally different world, and we need to get used to that.
Jeremy Galbraith, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Not at all.